So, of course, a very good day and welcome to another edition of the Police and You. I've got the distinct pleasure of speaking on this program with our new traffic chief, who is none other than Superintendent Dennis Stephen, fresh from immigration into traffic, and is our traffic boss for the entire country. Superintendent Dennis Stephen, very good day and welcome to the program.
So good day, and good day to the viewers also.
Evidently, traffic chief for Guyana, it speaks not only about traffic in the city of Georgetown, but for the entire country. And evidently, also, what it means is that from region to region, there are certain systems that have to be put in place to be able to reduce congestion and to make sure that traffic flows as smoothly as possible and safely as possible. But if we were to start with Regional Division 4 and Georgetown, which is considered very, as persons may say, troublesome and with a huge volume of traffic, what would you say is the situation and the plans that you have for making sure that traffic is addressed in a manner that will make sure that road users are comfortable?
Thank you very much, son. Of course, that the Georgetown uh, Region 4A, also Region 4B, there are traffic challenges, and those challenges are addressed by the traffic department. If you may observe, for over the period, especially in the morning period, the traffic ranks are placed across the road, on the roadways to deal with the traffic situation. For example, there's a large volume of traffic that proceeding from the west coast of Demerara. They'll have a 3 lane of traffic proceeding towards Georgetown. Traffic ranks are placed there to assist and ensure there's uninterrupted traffic flow during that area. Of course, they are placed at the traffic lights. Of course, the traffic lights cannot take on the traffic. That is the reason why the ranks are placed there to regulate the free flow of traffic, and set system are placed in reverse in the afternoon period. For Georgetown, especially, you have ranks are placed around the major roadway streets also to assist in the traffic, in regulation of the traffic across those areas. Yes, there are challenges. We are clamoring for space, but the traffic department are trying their utmost to ensure that persons to and fro about their journeys.
When you speak about the traffic lights, oftentimes we see people take to social media and ask, or they make certain disparaging comments about the police. Why have a policeman where a traffic light is? And you were highlighting some of those reasons to be able to pull off the traffic that the traffic lights can't. If you could elaborate a little bit as to why this is necessary.
Well, of course, the traffic lights are placed there to regulate the free flow of traffic. But take into consideration that the large influx of vehicles on our roadways and the traffic lights are placed there, count down as per minute or seconds. It may not regulate at the time where the large volumes that cause the build-up of traffic. That is the reason why the traffic ranks are placed there to engage, and depends on the situation, to engage the traffic and take or arrest the situation as the times may be.
So, is this something that you believe is being effective?
Of course, it will be effective, because what you find, for example, if the light is counting down at 10 seconds, you may have a large volume that back up the traffic, maybe a larger vehicles, among the vehicles at the intersection. So and depends on the times that the light is regulated, the large, and taking into consideration the large volume of traffic. If the traffic ranks do not engage and take the situation or arrest the situation at the time, you have a large obstruction, and you may delay, and also the lights may change from green to red, red to green, and you may have some situation right there. So the traffic ranks may have to engage, depends on the given situation, and it is flexible also.
What are some of those main areas that you find that this large buildup of traffic occurs, that is important for you to place policemen and women to be able to assist with the flow of traffic?
Of course, you have the Eccles intersection. You have the Mandela intersection. You have also sometimes we may engage at Camp and Regent Street. On the East Coast, you have the Carifesta, the Report Creek Highway, so to speak, in the vicinity of Sherry Street. They will have some engagement. You will some engagement in the morning at the Mandela Public Road in the vicinity of the National Culture Center. We may have to engage, depends on the volume of traffic. We must take into consideration in the morning period, in the afternoon, there are a large volume of traffic across Georgetown area, also coming from the East Coast, coming from the West Coast, coming from the East Bank. So because of the large volume of traffic, that's the reason why the traffic ranks are placed there to assist in the regulating of the traffic.
Awesome. Now, when we speak about the East Bank, one of the things also that many road users gripe about is that when they are seeking to compete for use of the road to get to work or from work, they also have to contend with a lot of these large articulated vehicles and other vehicles that sometimes are either slow or in some cases they tend to want to bully them off the road. Many are saying, why not have them travel at specific times? What would you say about that?
Well, of course, it is a very difficult question in a sense whereby the roadway is for all road users. What we do, we take into consideration that these lorries are very large, and also it clamours for space at the same time. What we do in the morning period at the Suzette Junction and at Garden of Eden, we park those lorries from 6 a.m. until 8 a.m. to facilitate the free flow of traffic. For those lorries which at that time were parked at the Suzette Junction, we have an escort, a motorcycle takes them down to the Diamond Junction. We take into consideration that we don't want the lorry compete among themselves, so we escort them down, and we set time we escort these lorries also at the Garden of Eden down to the Diamond Junction also, and then we flow the traffic straight so they could be able to have the said use of the road at the same time. But we also take into consideration that persons do have to proceed to their work, to the business area, and that is the reason why we try our best to ensure that each and one, all individual, all road users, be able to meet to the destination at the same time with a safe way with these systems that we have put in place to accommodate everyone.
And with that in mind, sometime prior to your ascension to being traffic chief, there was the posture where get persons moving as much as possible. So even if it is that they are seen committing some sort of traffic offense, let them go, because we need to have traffic moving as opposed to that rank that is placed there stopping someone, and then you have a whole backup of traffic. What we have seen also is many persons in other situations, if it is that they are stopped by the traffic rank for whatever reason, they may say to them, well, you're not supposed to stop me. What is your position on this thinking by persons?
In my opinion, of course, the law is clear. The section 1601, the Police Act, gives the police the power to stop, search, and detain. Also, section 43(2) of the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act indicates that a police, in his view, observe an offense committed in his view, can take the necessary action. That system would have put in place during the time of Mr. Sila Prasad, who at the time was looking at police harassment by the member of the public. And that same posture is still on. In my opinion, that it is the responsibility of the traffic police to observe an offense, especially of a minor offense, can engage, but in a sense of rather than arrest, summons. Summons is a way by you avoid any confrontation between the police and the member of the public. So there is some sort of enforcement, but enforcement must be properly supervised by a senior person, so you're able to avoid any confrontation. Police encounter with member of the public must be on a professional one, whereby less confrontation in the form of summons, and the summons will be more effective if the police execute their duty in a professional manner.
And as we on this issue of stop and search, there seems to be some confusion by members of the public, if you can clear up, where many believe that if it is that they're stopped and there some offenses identified, they should just be given a ticket and go on their way. Some ranks counter by indicating that not all offenses committed are ticketable. Hence, they would instruct them to go to the station, and many might be resistant to that. Can you elaborate a little bit on this?
I do support that not all of the offenses that are there in our laws are ticket offenses. Most of the ticket offenses comes under the regulation, which we deem as minor offenses. Some offenses that you may need a person to be or escorted to the station, so to speak. But in my opinion, summons of individual who commit themselves would be more effective rather than confrontation. Person may feel that they are being harassed by inviting them to the station. Depends. For example, if a person is an unlicensed driver, you cannot allow the person to commit the offense. So there's some sort of invitation to the station, and depends, and I have someone to take the vehicle to the respective residence. So there must be some sort of interaction between the police. Depends on the offense that the person committed at the time. For example, if the person have a defective brakes light, that's what deemed as a ticket offense. There's no need for a person to be invited to the station.
On the matter of lights, this seems to be a bugbear for the traffic department of the Ghana Police Force. More specifically, the white lights and the color lights, especially at nights where other road users do complain that it impairs their vision. But many seem to want to do this or want to add this to their vehicle for whatever reasons. What is the police's posture as it relates to these white lights and the colored lights?
Well, of course, currently we are having a white light exercise that runs throughout the various divisions that are able to address those white light situations. What you find with a lot of persons who vehicle would have issued with a certificate of fitness, at the back of that certificate of fitness indicate that the owner of that certificate of fitness is acknowledged, that there's a declaration that the owner of that vehicle cannot alter or attach after that certificate of fitness was issued to them. So you may find that the person may probably go and do some alter. It's an offense, and of course at night, that those white lights can affect other road users, and it amongst the careless driving. Fail to have reasonable consideration to other road users with those white lights. So we are looking at those offenses. We are having a continuous night exercise to address those situations. But the law is clear. The law is clear as relates to lights. You said two white lights to the front, visible from a reasonable distance, and it's not safe for persons to alter the light, especially at night and when it is raining. There's no reflection, and your view to the front can be affected and can cause accidents.
And how about also driving with high beams on consistently without having any consideration for oncoming traffic?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, it's amongst the careless driving reasonable consideration for other road users. So you're inconsiderate at the time while driving, and I mean, the lights clear that you have to dim or you dim your lights, and also as persons are approaching you, so that other person road user can be able to have a view up to the front of their vehicle.
With this in mind, there is a clamor by many for the tinting of vehicles. And oftentimes, if it is that they do not have a tint certificate, the police, the traffic rank will invite them to the station or instruct that they take it off. What would be your advice to anyone who is desirous of having tint?
Well, our laws is clear that the minister is the authority for issuing of tint waiver. Our laws indicate that there's not a ban on tint, but a ban on the percentage. Our laws indicate that the driver, also the occupant, must be visible. The police must able to identify the occupants, including the driver of the vehicle, and therefore the tint must not be so dark on the vehicle that it renders the police officer his observation as to the identifying the occupants also driving the vehicle. The law also indicates that for tint is that 65% visible of light penetration on the glass, and that would render it transparent so persons can be able to identify the drivers and occupants in the vehicle.
So two situations you just raised there, and if you could, let's just address those. One would be, do you find, whilst, as you mentioned, the law does not prohibit tint, you must have a permit.
Correct.
To have. Do you find that there are persons who put on tint in their vehicles without the necessary permits?
Of course.
How is that dealt with?
Well, of course, what we find are also not only persons put on tint, we also observe persons are tinting their front windscreen, and that is very dangerous, especially at night, and especially when it is raining. It may have some issues with the person's sight. For persons who are placed tint on the vehicle without the relevant authority permission, we have in exercises and we're able to address those situations.
And on the other hand, those who have a permit, do you find that there are cases where they have a legal permit for them to have tint, but they have exceeded what the law allows in terms of the application of tint to their vehicles?
I think the issue is that there's a lot of misinterpretation of the tint permit as relates to what it is contained. The document that was given to persons who are having the tint exemption, it will indicate by the minister that persons, the law specifies 65%, but they are given a waiver. Therefore, they could be able to put on the tint that is able to workable for them. So you have so it will probably be dark, but a waiver what is given by the minister, and that's it. The traffic ranks would not elaborate or engage as long as the permit is issued.
And they have that is enforced.
Yes, it's enforced. The document is stated there, and the persons are free to put on the tint except the front windscreen.
Thanks for clearing that up, Traffic Chief, Superintendent Dennis Stephen. If we to now look at what obtains in other regions, because evidently for most persons they see heavy traffic in Georgetown, and as you mentioned, Region 4, A and B, and to an extent C, but you also have traffic issues in the other regions. Which regions would you say are more manageable as it relates to traffic and with less congestion?
There are many regions having less traffic issues, so to speak. For example, those regions, like for example, you have Region 1, Region 9, even to Region 7, Region 8. Those regions are manageable because those regions have different complex situation and challenges. For example, for Region 6 and Region 5, you have to contest with animals on the roadway, derelict vehicle on the roadways, and so on. You know, so each region has its own challenges. So we're able to address it as it presents itself. Region 5, of course, we have the animals on the roads. Region 3, likewise, they have the same challenge, of course, including the large volume of traffic that uses the Demerara Harbour Bridge, and both morning and the afternoon. Speeding is a challenge. Persons driving under the influence of alcohol also. That is a general challenge across Guyana as relates to road users, and those are the main contributing factors. In addition to those electric motorcycles, where a large amount of persons are using, and that is especially in Region 6 and Region 3, there's a large amount of persons, and what is alarming is that persons of underage are using those electric bike on the roadway.
And as you made mention of the electric motorcycles, we've seen some tragedies with where many who were using those were engaged in, and it probably brought some sort of confusion because these are not registered, so they do not have a number. Is there any plan to address the issue of electric motorcycles so that they could properly be either registered or prohibited? Some countries have.
Of course, there are some engagements with GRA. Myself had a few engagements with GRA. We are looking at see some advice what can be done. We also may seek some advice from the Ministry of Legal Affairs to see what can be done. But I would say this: in many countries, those electric cycles are banned, and they're used for purpose of industrial locations to and flow within an industrial space. In Guyana, our laws does not cater for the e-motorcycle or electric motorcycle, but we are looking at other countries and see what laws they are having in place, and so we're able to arrest the situation in Guyana. But it's not advisable for persons to use it on the road because it is dangerous. Of course, because the cycle does not register, it doesn't carry insurance, it doesn't carry fitness, also revenue license. And what we observe, as I mentioned earlier, that there are a lot of persons of underage. Of course, our law indicate that a person at 16 can have a driver's license. What I observe, that persons who are below that age are using the electric motorcycle, and it's very dangerous, especially persons involved in accidents. Injuries may caused by death or serious injuries. In most time, the police have challenges that we seek legal advice, and most time it be private action because our laws are not cater for those cycles, e-cycles. Of course, our laws define what is a motorcycle, and it defines a motorcycle as a motorcycle with less than 4 wheels, with an unladen weight of 800 weight or 800 pounds, and the e-cycle does not fall in that category. That is the reason why you find we have these challenges. So most occasions when person die as a result of using these cycle, it mostly go as inquest because of our laws, the challenge that we face with these cycles, and the large amount of persons are using it. And also what we observe also, a lot of persons who are using these cycles, they are not afraid with the rules of the road. For example, a person who having a driver's license know that okay, they have to drive on the left hand side of the road, they have to overtake on the right hand side, They have to do certain things before they drive. Most users of this category, what we call the e-cycle, they are not au fait with the laws. So that's the reason why they make mistakes, and it might be probably loss of life or serious injuries as a result.
Thanks a lot for clearing that up, Traffic Chief. And if we were to look now at uh, from your tenure, even though it's pretty short, what would you say is the state of accidents? More so serious or fatal accidents that have occurred within the country, and if it is you care to share some comparative figures.
No problem. For so far for this year, we are observing 59 fatal accidents compared to 61 last year. So there's a slight decrease um, in accidents. But for me, each accident, each life that we lost, it is sad. It is sad in a sense because this accident, we may look at accident as just a normal thing, but accident for me, it's a social issues that need to address by all. The traffic department cannot do this alone. We cannot, you know, deal with it alone. It takes all road users must be involved to address the accidents that we're facing in Guyana. When I use the word social issue, in a sense, most time in my experience when in traffic, when you go to a funeral, because being an investigator, you have to go to the funeral to observe where the person is buried or cremate, and you might see persons weep and so on. And it is sad to know that what happened to the family, who maintained the family when that person lost their life. And sometimes we look at accidents, look at fatal, but what about serious accidents whereby person may lose a limb, render him unfit to maintain his family? So it's a social issue. Who take care of his children? How he maintain his family and so on. So those are things that need to be addressed by all Guyanese, because it's not really for me a traffic issue or a traffic department issue. It is a general issue and it takes all involved. Each and every road user must be responsible for his or her action. And if everyone look at road safety in a serious way, I believe we next day we might wake up in no accident, because each one of us observe the rules of the road.
Would you say that speeding is the single biggest contributing factor to accidents that many persons are involved in?
Yes, speeding is one of the main factor. There are many other factors we can look at, but speeding, you see, the law may be specified, okay, at a certain speed limit, but it's the driver's responsibility to drive at a safe speed, that if he encounter any given situation, he must be able to come to a stop without causing any injuries to himself or other road users. So therefore, he must be able to have some sort of control of his vehicle, that in case of a danger ahead, he could be able to stop without causing any injuries to himself or other road users. So speeding indeed is a challenge that we all face.
With that in mind, Traffic Chief, you've got a situation where you've seen an unprecedented number of applicants for packages and to be licensed. There has been some delay with actually getting all of those persons licensed as quickly as your department will desire. Can you address that?
Of course, thank you very much, Stan, again. I think what's happened, the Force Administration has taken it on hand to look at our learner driver program, and they would have come up with analysis whereby it needs to upgrade. So we are in the process of upgrading the process. We are yet to get there. So what we are trying to do, we're trying to phase out the package and implement the system whereby the computerize the system, so that we're able to have more transparent most transparency. Yes, a lot of persons may complain that look, they go and they write the test, they know they pass and somebody failed them and so on. So in the new transparent system, right when you write the exam, you will have your result within minutes. Um, Currently, we are not selling the package, but we are looking and see what can be done to person to continue the process online. We are looking from some minor issues, some challenges we are facing, but for person who have the package, they can come for the appointment date to do the exam, and the exam will do at the computer center. For example, we are looking at currently in A division, we starting roll off the program, and also in region 6, that's in Borbis, we having that program roll off, and we're looking at the rest of also the rest of regions to roll off those programs. So those persons who are living in those areas that didn't mention, they can have the appointed date, go and write the exam at a specific date given to them.
And I think just recently your department had indicated also that those who had been given dates, whether later in the year or maybe next year, they could actually visit the nearest traffic department and seek to have a date change
Yes.
to an earlier time.
Right.
Does that mean that you are being able to now facilitate a faster
Yes.
process?
Yeah. We're trying to facilitate the faster process because we do not want to take this problem into the new year. As I mentioned earlier, that the system, we are upgrading it, and so persons who have packages can come forward and give an early date, so we'll be able to at least deal with that situation as early as possible.
And what reassurance or advice would you give to those who don't have packages at this point in time, and they are desirous of driving, and they feel that every time they call at the office or they're hearing we don't have anything, and they're feeling frustrated?
There are many persons reach out to me also. They're free to visit our office, and we're able to address the situation. We understand the urgency, we understand the situation, but as persons visit the office, we will be able to have persons ranks are placed there to address the situation.
All right, Traffic Chief, if we're going to turn our attention now to the big plan of Cricket Carnival that is coming. And one of the things that we are aware of is usually when there are large events in our country, persons become a little worried or fearful that there is a bigger rush for use of the roadways and further delays on themselves. This obviously means that if you're going to have this influx of, and we're hearing that, for example, tickets for most of those cricket events in Guyana are already sold out, means that you've got so much people who are coming to Guyana, and use of our roadways is going to be heightened. What are your plans for that time?
Well, the travel department have its mandates to ensure that the free flow of traffic uninterrupted, and for the cricket carnival, so to speak, of course, it's something big. It's a big mega event, and the travel department is prepared to handle those situations. On the day in questions, of course, public knowledge that we have in 7 matches, and we are prepared to ensure that persons who are to and fro to the events are must able to arrive safely and proceed uninterrupted in a free flow of traffic. We have implemented many new traffic posture to be able to address the situation. And for example, persons who are proceeding to the venue on the date in question, we are looking at, we advise that they use the eastern side of the eastern carriageway. That's on the east bank of Demerara. Persons who are proceeding beyond the stadium, who are not patrons, they can proceed on the western side of the eastern carriageway. We also take into consideration the large amount of persons who are proceeding on the west coast of Demerara. Um, we are looking at, depends on the time, we would have a third lane, uh, and the third lane would include the eastern side of the western carriageway for persons who are proceeding towards the Demerara Bridge and beyond. We are also advising that persons, there would be paid parking on the Providence access road, and that would be the red road, so to speak, commonly known. There's a public paid parking there, and that road would be a one-way for traffic proceeding east only. On completion of the event, we also advise that persons proceed farther east, correct, farther east, and they could use the Windsor Estate access road, ends to Mucka, or proceed north onto Mandela Avenue, proceed onto Mandela, that's west, or proceed north. For there also be a second paid parking that would be in the second entrance, and the third entrance, which is a green field, persons that for diplomats and ministerial vehicles only. It's also advised that persons use carpooling to less the traffic congestion. We take in also consideration the persons who are proceeding towards the airport and also got beyond. So if persons use carpooling, our problem will be easy, make it easy for us also.
When you speak about parking, one of the considerations that persons are wondering about is in front of their ingress and egress of either their business place or their residence being blocked by some of these patrons who may choose to come and then park in front of them. And you've got a situation where someone parks, blocks their entrance and goes, they don't know where they are, they can't find them, and so they are being humbugged.
Well,
what would you say about
well,
that?
of course, we're looking at also, as I mentioned earlier, that there are two public parking, so therefore parking will not be allowed between the Arbor Bridge to the stadium on both sides of the road shoulders. No parking will be allowed. We place cones there, temporary cones. Also, we have signage. We put signage as far as Mandela, and beyond the stadium area on both sides of the road, giving information to the member public, but parking would not be allowed. Will not be allowed on that day during the cricket season.
So persons don't have to worry. And even if, or what about if it is, let's say it's your business or your home, will they be affected by this no parking zone?
No, it not will be affected. That was taken into consideration also.
That this is their residence or business.
Right.
Okay, thanks a lot about that. And we've got, one of these other situations where there's a little bickering that happens between people. Oftentimes is where they complain that persons are erecting no parking signs or putting up these little blocks or bricks on the reserves in front of their property and denying them from actually parking there when they go to certain congested areas. Is this something that the traffic department will be looking at?
Persons placing signs on the roadway, it has always been a challenge for the traffic department. But our laws is clear. The Commissioner of Police, the main city council, and also the Ministry of Public Works, those are the authority as related to placing signs on road markings on our roadways. So any persons other than that group it would deem an illegal act.
And how will you deal with it if it is, or can persons call anywhere to be able to get relief?
Yes, there are some engagement. I had some engagement with some person who would have placed some signs on the road and have them removed. So there are persons are reporting and we're able to take action again. So persons can call the department and be able to address those situations with person who would have done such.
Traffic chief, what would you say to mostly business places where they have issues of competing customers using the parking that they have designated at their property for their competing customers, and then some sort of conflict arises out of that? Does the police get involved in situations like that?
Depends on the situation. For example, if it is a private premises, the traffic department do not get involved. It is a public road. Um, if an issue arise, if reported, we're able to intervene and see what can be done to address the situation. But on a private nature, the department do not get involved in private actions.
So what would you say, what would those persons have to do?
Well, depends on the situation. We will advise them private action to take a lawyer and take the necessary course of action.
Okay, it's best for them to do that and
Right.
not just be calling the police to intervene.
Okay, right.
All right, this is certainly very interesting and thorough. Before we do wrap up our conversation, I wanted to ask about when we look at what is happening in the rest of our country. Traffic chief, we see also an influx of a lot of the four-wheel cycles that persons are using. Um, we've got the challenges, as mentioned, of some of our trails not being gazetted. Hence, when certain things occur, they have to be treated as incidents. But there are many persons who might tell themselves, well, they have a right for redress should something happen to them on these trails. Well, what would be your advice?
Well, of course, for the ATV must be registered as a must a motorcycle. Um, for persons who are using the trail, it advise use the rules of obey the rules of the road. We are looking at whether to seek advice as relate to the trail to become gazetted roads, so we're able to address all the situations at those various interior locations. Yes, we observe that there's a high increase of accidents, especially serious accidents, in those areas, and we are looking at whether the persons are licensed. We have officers there. We have traffic department able to go and lectures to those persons who are frequently using those trail. A lot of engagement we are trying to meet across those areas to address. For example, let them the surfing officer goes in the villages areas and conduct lectures to drivers engagement. Likewise in region 1 and those locations we try to have uh, meetings with persons as far as barometer addressing those areas, those situations as person to be affair with the rules of the road, because it applies on the trail, but the only difference is that the trail is not gazetted, and we are looking to have seek advice to have those trail to be gazetted as a road.
Someone sent a question to ask you, Traffic Chief, and that is as it relates to they saw the last national budget where the government indicated that they were allowing for vehicles to deal with disability driving to be on our roadways. And they're not too sure as to how to go about this, and if it is that the police traffic department is going to be au fait with how to deal with such vehicles should they be on the roadways by persons who may have a disability.
Well, the 5102 indicates about vehicle of disability, what we deem as invalid carriage, and it speaks as a vehicle. It categorizes as a vehicle. So it's not the department would have an issue to deal with it. 'Cause it is in our laws, and it comes in a category, and the traffic department will be able to try to see how can be able to facilitate those disabled person while using the road. But our laws cater for those category of vehicles.
So if it is that they're someone who has a disability and is desirous of purchasing one of those vehicles, they can go ahead.
Yes, they can go ahead because the laws cater for those category vehicles.
All right. And the final question that someone had submitted is that they're saying that in some countries, ever so often, persons, despite being licensed, are subjected to being retested. As traffic chief, would this be something that you would seek to recommend, or do you see it as being feasible or applicable to Guyana?
There are many persons who may have the opinion. I do support it. What I know currently, for example, in Guyana we have many classes of vehicle, and each class that the persons who desire to obtain may have to go through some sort of test. But I do believe that person they must some sort of retest, and I think we should measure it in a way whereby if a person is involved in an accident, for example, a fatal accident, that person should be retested. Or any category of accident whereby the persons may receive serious injuries also, some sort of retest, and also you'll be able to know whether the person is capable of driving on the road. So I'm fully support, and I would also like to support also insurance for public transportation of having been full coverage. I would like to support that also, because what you find most
Instead of taking out
the normal
the third
insurance,
party,
third party
yes.
insurance, especially when person receive injuries, the third parties for me may not be able to compensate the person's injuries and so on, able to go about maintaining themselves and family. So I would like to support that the insurance, public transportation, and this is what we ICAR and minibuses should be full coverage.
All right. Quite interesting, and I know most likely something like that will have some pushback by many of those operators, since those are the types of insurance that are considered the cheapest to be able to take out.
Correct.
But when you talk about this, I get the sense that you, as you mentioned earlier in our discussion, sometimes when you go to some of these either the funerals or you go to hospitals and you see how persons are either maimed or left disabled or due to death, what happens to a family.
Correct.
It is this kind of consideration that you're thinking about when they have comprehensive insurance.
Right.
All right, and just before we do wrap up, I'd like to ask, is there anything else you'd like to add or to give to an appeal to the citizens of Guyana as it relates to the use of our roadways?
Well, I just want to say that of course we are in the August holiday, with a lot of activities, a lot of entertainment. My advice to all road users to have a designated driver. You know, it is sad to lose anyone, especially around this period. So it's advisable that persons have a designated driver to take them to and fro to the destination safely.
Superintendent Dennis Stephen, Traffic Chief, of the Ghana Police Force, I want to say thank you very much for spending some time with us on the policing here.
Thank you very much.